Uh, Today is National Sleep with the Drummer Day. I didn't make it up. I promise. I did not make that up. Google it. And I've already seen multiple posts in my feed from my drummer friends that it's National Sleep with the Drummer Day. Now, when I looked at the description of this, it says Sleep with the Drummer Day. Experience perfection. Experience the perfect combination of peaceful sleep with rhythmic beats. You can interpret that however you suits you. So Mary and I, the producer, we just went to Los Angeles. We were there for 4 days for the Taxi Road Rally Music Conference. Now, if you don't know what Taxi is, I'll tell you really fast. Taxi is an A&R group, which A&R stands for Artist and Repertoire. If you didn't know, a lot of people say artist relations, and maybe to some degree it does, but it's artists and their bodies of work. And they, so film and TV need music. Everything needs music. And so these music supervisors for film and TV will go to what's called a music library looking for specific pieces of work to put into to sync picture with sound. Not sound effects, because that's a whole nother thing, but writing music for film and TV. So they go to music libraries. If music libraries don't have what they need to fulfill those, they will go to a place like Taxi and put out to the world of music producers looking for specific things. Like, I need an 80s throwback hair metal band sounding thing, or they need some kind of country music, or they need, and there's multiple subgenres. It goes deep. At any rate, they put out, we have this need for this, and then people who belong to Taxi get these emails, and then they can write and produce music and send it back to submit. It goes through a screening process. So Taxi has a panel of screeners that will listen to songs and decide if they want to forward it to the music library. And then the music library will, if it gets forwarded to them, they will give it to music supervisors. And if they decide to use it, then you start getting paid. And there's money that goes in multiple directions. So there's the copyright, the people who played on the music, there's publishing, there's sync licensing, on and on and on. It sounds really muddy, but once you understand it, it's not that bad to navigate. So we go to these conferences to get more education on what music supervisors are looking for, what the screeners at Taxi are listening for, and deciding how and when they want to move music forward. And all these same things apply just to, if you're in a band in general, as a songwriter, like what makes your song great. They were very kind down there. Nobody came out and said, your song sucks. But as I was sitting in some of these classes where they would play music, and then you would, you got about 1,000 people in a room who are all listening. And in my mind, I'm thinking certain things, how great is the singer? How great is the production? All of those kind of things. Lyrics, the song structure. And this can go in a lot of different directions. So like trailer music, say Jurassic Park is coming out and there's music behind the trailer and it builds tension and excitement. So those might be 90 seconds long pieces of work. So you got those, you've got little song snippets that are just a few seconds long, and then you've got full songs in all kinds of genres, hip hop, country, rock, anything you can think of, and the multiple subgenres of all of those, even classical sounding material. So part of what I heard down there, in my opinion, when I heard it, there was one person in particular who got picked twice to listen to their music in front of 1,000 people in a panel of 4 judges. Basically, it sounded like it was recorded in a bathroom. It was very reverby, echoey, high-end, shrill, harsh, really hard to hear any definition of anything going on. And I'm thinking this sucks. um, Along with some of the other people I was with, were like, just kind of. Now, all that being said, I think if you're going to submit music like that to be judged, you're putting it out there. Um, Anytime we post something to like social media and the public to watch and listen to, we're taking a risk to some degree on if people are going to like it or not. And sometimes you get great comments and sometimes you get negative comments, and then you have to decide, well, how am I going to respond to that, if at all? So when you put something out there like that, it's risky and it's brave. So I was kind of thinking this is pretty substandard as far as what I was hearing. But the panel that reviewed it, they were very, very kind. They in the language they used, they were very helpful in their review. They didn't say this is terrible, don't do this. They said, I like this melody, I like these lyrics, I like the intention. Now you need to work on getting the quality level put together. And they said, look, you're in a room of 1,000 people, many of whom are producers, and they can help you. So network with those people. And it is a great networking opportunity. They have people from all over the world that are in Taxi, and they're producing and writing and recording and all of that stuff. Really great, amazing sounding stuff. So they were suggesting to this person, hey, meet these people and get some help so that you can have success in this. And it was really cool in the way that they relayed that information to her. It wasn't, they were very tactful, is what I'm trying to say. But you're there for 4 days and you go to these classes for all kinds of things: marketing, artist relations and development, which that's why I was there, more for marketing and connecting with people who would need drummers to record drum tracks for their music. So I'm connecting with people from Australia, New Zealand, Finland, Quebec, of course, a lot of people from the United States. It's just people from all over the world converging on this music conference. And through the great invention of the internet, you can work with these people remotely and through email, and it's pretty awesome to do that. So, why does your song suck? I know I see a lot of people on that are popping on who I know are musicians or people who enjoy music. And what I'm going to say is not to criticize anybody, because I have plenty of work to do on myself. I've said over the last year my opinions on things like iPads on the stage and how you dress for the stage and those kind of things. Those are just my opinions and my take. You guys do whatever you want to do and whatever ability you have. And I would say one discussion I had with some musicians down there was, where did it all start? And generally speaking, across the board, all of us got into it because we love it. We're in love with music. Many of us started playing instruments, very, very young. I was 10. There's other people that start at 4. I've got students that are 4 years old. There's just something inside us as musicians that something goes off in our brain, into our being, into our spirit, that there's no stopping it, right? So what you do with it from there is obviously up to you, and what your goals are as you go along is going to influence what you think or not or don't think is important. For me, I'm always shooting for the next level of stuff, and in order to do that, you have to leave the old thinking behind. There's it's a progression. So I guess that's a little side note. Like, why does your song suck? So I wrote down a couple things just based on what I heard last year when I was there, and then some reaffirming things this year. Uh, as you know, my wife Mary does mixing and mastering and tracking all right here on the other side of that wall. So much stuff she's got from people that mentored her when we started. Excuse me. And then getting feedback last year on some mixes was great for her, and we did some. I say we, I mean she. She had two of her songs that she mixed and mastered, reviewed by some mix and master engineers that are out of Nashville that have substantial resumes. And um, one of the songs that she had reviewed was by Cliff Miller, who I drum for, and it's a song called "Better in the Next Life." The producer from Nashville loved the song, loved the production on it, especially in the verses. Um, Her choice of reverb and delay that she used was just really complimentary. The only thing that he had to say that might have been, I don't want to say negative necessarily, but a place of improvement is when the chorus happened, that he felt like it could open up a little bit more. Which, we've had that song out for a while and it sounds great, and we're not going to change anything because it's out there. But he gave her some tips like how to make this feel more open, and it was like light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. So it was really, really great. And then the other song that she had reviewed was our cover of "Woman in Chains" by Tears for Fears, which has this huge reverbs on it. And Scott Alexander from Dishwalla played bass on that, and he this mix engineer from Nashville just was like, wow, this is perfect. It's a perfect mix. And so that lets us know that, Mary's doing all the right things. So it's great. But that has nothing to do with why your song sucks. It's a component because you want your song to sound amazing when people listen to it. And we're listening to music on these phones, this little phone speaker here. That's, or earbuds. We're not generally listening on a big sound system. It's funny because we're in the music business, and we know a lot of people who write and record music. And Mary will get something, and she says, "Well, it's on my phone it doesn't sound." And they're like, "Oh no, don't listen on your phone. Listen in your studio." 99% of the time when we're listening to music, it's on this. So yeah, you should probably review how your mix sounds on this device and on your little Apple earbuds, or whatever earbuds you're listening to, your headphones. Wouldn't you want the mix to sound the best on the things that you're listening to it on the most? Probably. Yes, the answer is yes. So review your mix on those things. So here's things to consider. Like, so broadcast quality. Taxi specifically is looking for songs of broadcast quality. They want to receive music and send it on to music supervisors, and they plug and play. They don't have to remix anything. Now, depending on, there's always exceptions to the rule. Maybe they want this mix song and then they want all the stems sent separately. So if they want no drums or vocals, they can pull those out without, it's whatever the situation is. But the quality of that needs to be very, very high because, for example, I know some people that have had their music played for in the Super Bowl or on like the NBA championship. I don't know all the sports stuff, but sports stuff on TV where they've had their music used for that. It didn't get there sounding bad. It got there sounding perfect and great. So, broadcast quality, like how great is your recording? Then they talk about song structure. So song structure would be intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, the order of those things. And then, is there a bridge? Is there a solo? And then the outro, like the song construction, the arrangement of the song. Like, does that make sense? Then you've got your lyrics and melody if the song has vocals in it. How strong are the lyrics and how strong is the melody? And then are you singing in pitch? Or do you have a bunch of pitch correction going on in your recording? Some people, when who can't sing very well or get a great performance, your mixing engineer is working hard through these programs that can correct the pitch of your voice. And when that's done drastically, you can hear that automation going. Cher used that in that song "Do You Believe in Love" that came out. What I might be guessing, but like mid '90s or something. It was like on purpose. You could hear pitch correction going on there, and it became a thing for a while. Like Cher did it, so now everybody else is using this as an effect in those things. But if you're using it because you lack the ability to do it correctly, maybe you need to find a different singer for your song. It's something to seriously consider. And that lyric and melody, is it connecting with your listener? Is it going to stir them emotionally? And so music's very emotional, not, and what I mean by that, it's not sad. It can be happy. It can be mad, whatever emotion you're thinking, like, what are you conveying lyrically to make that to really come to life? And then, like I said a moment ago, like all the musicians and singers that are part of it, like, can they execute this song very well? Do they have the talent, the ability to do that? One thing, like with the lyrics, I got two stories with that. One was, there was the class that Mary and I went to where this, and because Mary's a singer, this was a vocal coach who was in there who was very energetic. And because of how he did this class, he had your full attention the whole time. And even me, who's not a singer, like made everybody stand up and sing these parts and focused on certain things. And even myself, when I was doing that, I was like, I could actually make a tone. Now, if I could do that repeatedly, then maybe I would have a fighting chance at some little, because I don't sing. And I don't have that gift. I recognize I don't have that, and I'm okay with that. I do enjoy singing when I'm by myself driving around in my car, because nobody else is there to hear it. But it's fun. It's fun to do when nobody else can see or hear me. But so those singers that were there who are accomplished, he just had this incredible approach. And so one of the things that he did as an example, so he brought this young girl up, I'm guessing early 20s, very petite, small, acoustic guitar she had with her. And he said, I want you to play and sing for me one of your songs. And so she started strumming her guitar and she started singing along. And I can't remember the lyric exactly, but it led you to this place where it said something to the effect of 21 will seem so far away. So 21 being an age, like, hey, time's going to go really fast, and eventually 21 is going to seem really far away. And it was very cute, and it was kind of moving, and everybody applauded. And at that point, everybody's thinking this is great. And so this vocal coach tells her, okay, now tell me what the lyric of the song is. So she repeats back to him what the opening line is of the song. And through how her body language was, and like trying to physically emulate what she's singing about. And like I said, I can't remember all the lyrics, but the end of it was 21 is going to be so far away. And so it was kind of like a little sad and melancholy, and just, the realization of how fast life goes by. And some of it was relational, maybe it involved her boyfriend, I don't know. But she played it again, and when he actually physically took her head and moved it like this as she sang, and when he did that, her vocal performance had a serious jump in the effect it had on the audience, just through how she moved. Like, it causes her to go deeper, like in her soul, to sing these lyrics. And then he worked with her again, and so all of a sudden, this classroom are witnessing this happening, and it was like, all in all, it was like getting her to believe in the lyrics that she wrote herself, like internalize that even more. And then, so when she did that in her performance, it was like the performance of the vocal just kept elevating and elevating and elevating, and she didn't lose any quality to her voice. Just the dynamic in her voice also changed quite a bit. Like, you're saying this thing, so as you say this thing, you're going to get louder and then immediately get quieter, because you're not only like physically with your body emulating what the lyrics are saying, the dynamic in your voice is going to change as well. Excuse me. It was really super cool, and I think even like that helps people who are producing artists. You know, Mary's extremely patient. We've had singers in here before, and she's really great of like, okay, that was pretty good. Now let's do another one where instead of this note, you're gonna go for this note because that note's a little flat or it's a little sharp. We're gonna zero in on that, and we're gonna capture a great one. So even like this vocal coaching thing, it opened up my eyes and ears too. Like, oh yeah, and it made me reflect on even like how your drum parts work. Like I said, I'm not a singer. I'll never imitate one or try to. That's not my thing. But drumming wise, we have an opportunity to move the song emotionally by how hard we're playing, you know, um, how the sticks are hitting the cymbals and the drums can greatly affect the emotional response that you're going to get in that song. And so that's like, I know some people out there, they like the music, like they hear the music first. And I think if you're a musician, whatever instrument you play, when you listen to a song, that's probably the I'm guessing is probably the instrument that you're listening to first. So when I hear a new song, of course, as a drummer, I'm listening to the drums and think, you know, is this cool? Like, what are they playing? It's a little odd, and I think some of my musician friends out there may agree that when you're listening to music, it's hard to just listen to music without going somewhere else. You know, um, so for me, I'm listening to drums, I'm listening to the timing, the quality of the drums. Do I like that snare sound? All of those kind of things. And then as I listen to it more and more, then I start listening to the bigger picture and listening to the vocals. I like to connect with the song with the lyrics. The sooner I know the lyrics, the better, because especially in writing, if I know what the lyrics are, then, you know, once I have like the skeleton of what I'm doing is down, I can mold my drum part to help support what's being said lyrically. And I think a great example of that, and I've mentioned this before, is the song Silent Lucidity by Queensryche. There's a line that Jeff Tate sings, the walls you built within come crumbling down, a new world will begin. And so as he says crumbling down, Scott Rockenfield plays this drum fill where it helps the imagery of that line of walls crumbling, because this drum fill is happening, and it doesn't sound like a wall crumbling, but it supports that lyric to where it just, the weight of it gets heavier. Super cool stuff. So, you know, so I told you I had two stories with lyrics. The second story to the lyric is I have a drummer friend of mine who I was talking to about a week ago, whose band is, they're getting more popularity where they're playing, and things are getting a little more serious. They're starting to have some success. They do a lot of cover songs, and they were getting ready to have a band meeting, and he's asking me, you know, questions about how I should approach this subject of lyrics. And with their cover music, the singer has a habit of not knowing what the lyrics are. And so when this guy's singing, he repeats a lot of lyrics that have already been done. Like, say, for example, there's 3 verses. He'll sing the first verse 3 times. And this drummer friend of mine is looking around the room and noticing that, there's a lot of people here and they're trying to sing along, and they're looking at each other like that's not the line in the song. And so it kind of diminishes the work when the person that's fronting the band doesn't know the lyrics to the song. Hence why I guess some people have their iPads and phones on stage to remember lyrics. All that being said, is like any like just think of any song out there that you love, that you know the lyrics to. And if you went and saw that artist perform that song and they completely went off the rails, that would probably be a disappointment to a certain degree, that, oh, they did this thing, it was not what I was expecting. It's not like they created something new and they built upon what they had. They just completely, messed the whole thing up. And that's disappointing. So going back to the girl that was strumming the guitar and singing in this vocal class, so he had her concentrate on the first line of the song, and he goes, okay, what's the second line? And she paused, and she's running through the song in her head. And he goes, see, now that's a problem. This very energetic coach. He said, now, see, that's a problem. You don't even know your own song that well to just tell me what the next lyric is. Now, granted, she's in front of, a large group of people. There's probably some nerves involved with that. And sometimes you don't think quick on your feet when you're in those situations. Well, there might be a little bit of that. But he was just saying, like, if you don't know your song inside and out, that's a problem. Like, how can you improve it if you don't know the ins and outs of that song? A lot of the stuff that they talked about I've been doing this for a while, as of many of you have that are watching. And so we're practiced in songwriting and recording and those kind of things. One song that it's been out for a while, I had to look it up. Cliff Miller brought up this song. Maybe I think it was Cliff, because on our mini travels, we're listening to different music as we're going along and talking. And Cliff is a big Zach Bryan fan. Now, I don't listen to country music recreationally necessarily. Sometimes, but it's just not my thing. Although I really enjoy playing that music with Cliff, especially Cliff's original material. Cliff is another guy that, when it comes to songwriting and lyrics, like melody and lyrics, Cliff is just like this wellspring. Like, stuff just like in his vocal phrasing and his lyrics bring a lot of imagery to life. And that's something that I love when I'm working with somebody that has those abilities to just constantly is just got stuff flowing. And that's just how his brain works. I'm a little more analytical in my approach, but Cliff is very, very extremely good at this. And, he's listening to those artists that are in the style of which he's writing and performing. And one of those is Zach Bryan. So Cliff has played me a bunch of Zach Bryan stuff, which has just taken off like wildfire. But like, the broadcast quality of his recordings aren't in that realm of when we think of well-produced music, at least in my opinion. It's very raw. And some of the stuff where they do have percussion or drums going, the tempo does fluctuate, not in a herky-jerky manner, but over the course of the song it may get faster. I notice it because I'm a drummer, but maybe the general audience might not notice. They might just equate that to energy, and now it's starting to move fast. Maybe that's their intent. I'm not really sure. But like, song structure is extremely great, and the lyric and melody and that connection that Zach Bryan has through his lyrics is unbelievably great. And like I said, it's not something I would normally listen to. And so one of the songs that Cliff played by Zach Bryan is a song called Something in the Orange. And I highly, highly recommend everybody watching this to go out to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever and listen to Something in the Orange by Zach Bryan. Listen to it like 3 times. It's a very short song. It's not super long. I was trying to get the lyrics to print, and I was having this issue. I couldn't get it. So I really, really wanted to relay what the lyrics are because they're so incredible. But it's him singing and a guitar, and I don't believe there's anything else other than that. But one of his lyrics, it's a torch breakup song. This woman is leaving him, and it's pretty heavy. And Something in the Orange, the way I interpret the lyrics is how the sun is touching everything. Like he's talking about the morning, and the Something in the Orange tells him that we're not done. But as she's leaving, and then as he's going through the story, it looks like she's not going to come back. And then in the very end of the story, he's pleading her to come back, like turn those headlights around. So obviously she's driving away, and he's very emotional, saying, please turn those headlights around. But in the first verse of the song, he says this line about the way her head lays between his collar and jaw. And I thought, man, that is an incredible lyric. It immediately conjures all these images up of maybe driving in the truck, and she's got her head on his shoulder between his collar and jaw. And man, I just thought, you don't hear lyrics like that very often that just smack you in the face, you know. And he's talking about, even though her head is between his collar and jaw, there's no weight at all. So she's not even relaxed. She's like going through the motions of laying her head down. And then in the second verse, there's a line about there's a tremble in her voice while she's talking, and he's looking around the room, and he's like, we're having this horrible discussion in the same room where we used to dance, where the floor used to creak. And man, it's just like, when I listen to that song, I almost cry for him, because you could immediately put yourself in that situation. And it's just, so that's where like the lyric and the melody of what Zach Bryan's saying in that is just so incredibly perfect. It's just unbelievably great. And you guys need to go listen to that song. Go listen, even if you don't like country music. Now, this isn't like country music that you hear on the radio necessarily. That's a whole nother thing that they talked about at the tax. There's so much like hip hop and rock influence in country music. It's like, what is this that we're even like? This is, when I think of country music, I think of Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Clint Black. Those kind of names come to mind, you know. And Cliff is more in that country music vein of like Turnpike Troubadours, Reckless Kelly, those kind of bands. Zach Bryan, the hip hop thing, I don't know how that infiltrated country music, but you know, because Fred Fisher in Boise, Idaho doesn't like it, doesn't mean that millions of people aren't listening. But here's like where Zach Bryan's kind of breaking the rules as far as like broadcast quality goes, because there's not a lot to it. There's, you know, you don't hear a bunch of correction. It's just a very raw thing. And I think that way that's recorded feels very real to people. And not only that, just the lyrics of what he's saying just is like, you can, especially that song, you can just feel the weight of that situation on your shoulders, and you immediately connect with it. So I had to look up like how successful this song is, because you know, Cliff's telling me, oh yeah, this guy's just blown up, he's taken over everything. It's just, and here's an example of somebody that just did what they did and it worked. So Something in the Orange, so this song, I don't know when it was released, but these in 2022, so last year, it peaked at number 10 on Billboard charts. And that's pretty, if you're in the top 10, that's it's not a bad thing for this song. And then later in the year, it moved to the number 1 position on Billboard's songwriters chart. This this single acoustic guitar and a guy singing. That's where he is in relationship to everything. So far, it's had over 580 billion with the B streams and growing. It's still just. I probably listened to that song over the last few days probably 50 times. that's that's uh that's just how much it affecting me, was listening to Something in the Orange from Zach Bryan. 580 plus billion streams. It's currently getting 1.3 million streams a day. Those are unbelievable numbers. And when you're having that kind of effect on that many people, yeah, you're going to have some success. So that's where, your song is amazing. I'm not, like I said from the beginning, I'm not criticizing anybody in their journey or their songwriting abilities or those kind of things. All I could do is relate to my personal experience in all of this craziness I've been involved with for all of this time, and continue to do, and I don't have any plans to stop. I love being a drummer. Scott says, "I'll call that broadcast quality." Yeah, Scott. Um, I think you probably understand my point, though, is that there's certain EQ things that you and I would probably want to hear different. Um, but yeah, it was an example of something that kind of broke the rules as far as like what we would consider like industry standard broadcast quality stuff. Yeah, guys, go listen to that song. Give it 3 listens. It's going to be 12 minutes of your day or less. We all have that much time to listen. Um, it's just pretty crazy. Like I said, I'm not. You guys do what you do, and but I guess to wrap up, um, what I've noticed in my experience with people who I'm familiar with and know, and just witnessing like what people will post or gripe about, there's some kind of complaint that's happening, and believe me, I have my share of complaints and thoughts, and I try to be careful in especially how I post. Maybe if I have a criticism, maybe not as much on this show, but um, so Mark, yeah, rules. Are there rules truly? I would say yes, there are. And what I mean by that is think of like anything that exists. If you're an airline pilot, there's rules to what you do, right? Because you have this job and you have this responsibility. It's not like, oh, I should ignore all the advice of other airline pilots and just do my own thing. Probably not going to fly airplanes for very long or very far. As musicians, if you want to get better at what you do, then you should seek advice from people who are doing it bigger and better than what you are. It's all like your goals. Okay, I would say like whatever your goal is. If you want to be an NFL quarterback, you can't play high school football your whole life. You have to move on to the next big thing, right? You can't just stay in this circle. And it's a weird thing when you're talking about art. It's a weird thing when you're talking about art. Um, and I would say, Mark, that yeah, there's always going to be an exception to these rules, and I think Zach Bryan like shattered that mold is like as far as like broadcast quality goes. And to Scott's point is like the song was so good that standard that might be out there for broadcast quality didn't matter as much because the proof was in the metrics of what was happening, right? When you have that much success, nobody cares what that quality is. Um, but yeah, I think with anything there are certain parameters that you operate in that make things become better. So, like your lyric quality, like do your lyrics connect with people? and that's a tricky thing. Uh, so I'm just reading Scott's comment here. Scott is if you guys don't know Scott, or if you do know Scott, you know that he is and his body of work. He has an incredible amount of experience and knowledge, and it's not something to say, oh yeah, well, he got lucky. Not really. Those guys worked their butts off. And because they did that, they had success in what they do, and they still have success in what they do. So Scott says, back when we placed a song in American Pie, the biggest tip I learned on licensing music is that the lyrics can't be too directly specific about people, places, and things. Like a song about Jackson Hole limits itself to placement only about Jackson Hole. So typically the lyrics are very generic. Yeah, that was something, Scott, that they talked about a lot at the Taxi Road Rally last year. It's something they talked about a lot this year. Mary and I belong to a group of songwriters here in Boise that are all part of that taxi group. And yeah, lyrics can work for Jackson Hole, and obviously did, but it's a very specific subject. But so Dishwalla had this song Counting Blue Cars, and those lyrics are so easy to personalize to everybody that listens to that song. It's an idea that everybody can relate to, and it's not specific to a place or a thing. Although, tell me all your thoughts on God. Who doesn't have thoughts on God? Everybody has a thought on God. Even if you don't believe in God, everybody has a thought on God. And so when Counting Blue Cars says, tell me all your thoughts on God, anybody who listens to that song is immediately going to go, yeah, I want to know what your thoughts are. And so, boom, that song just went. Phew. Now, I don't know if Scott is the only one who I know that can answer this question, unless I got somebody else in his band. I could ask George or the other guys I'm friends with in the band. But Scott's the one that I know. It's like, I don't know if they intentionally sat and they were really methodic in that, or if it just flowed out of whoever came up with that lyric. But that is something that in that song, when you hear "Tell Me All Your Thoughts on God," it's boom, everybody relates. It's like this Zach Bryan song. It's like everybody has a story about a breakup, and breakups are hard on people. Sometimes when you get far enough away from it, then you can look back and go, well, yeah, what was I so worked up about? This thing I have now is so much better. I had a girl that I dated for a few months when I in my late teens, and I was just so involved, like this thing. And when that ended, it was really depressing. And people who are older than me, like my parents, like, oh, it'll be okay, and people tell you things like that, and they aren't wrong, but when you're being told that in the mess of it all, it doesn't feel any better. But now I've been married to my wife for 27 years and got 4 kids and this cool music production thing that we do. It's like, yeah, it's so much better. But yeah, that Zach Bryan song just really, really took off. So I'm going to wrap this up here pretty quick. But I wrote a song called Wreckage that it's on the Midlines Wreckage album. I don't typically write songs. I don't typically write lyrics and melody. At this song, I did. Usually, my contribution to songwriting is coming up with complementary drum parts, rhythm, and tempo. I'm really heavy-handed in song arrangement, especially in midline. Like, I really super heavy-handed in that. But we've also been doing it for decades, so our working conditions is very fluid, I guess you could say. But so on Scott's like being like really specific things. So for me, wreckage was a very specific thing because it's exactly about my dad's plane crash. If you guys don't know, my dad died when I was 6 years old in a plane crash, a plane that he was flying. Little side note, my mom got remarried. My stepdad's been dad to me ever since. I love my stepdad greatly. I very rarely refer to him as my stepdad. He's just been dad. So life has been fine. It's been good. But as you can imagine, if your dad died in a plane crash at a very young age, that's going to have a lifelong effect on you, as it did me. But that first verse in that song, like knowing your song really well, is like the opening line is, "I think about you every day," and I do. I think about my dad every day. Memories surface, no voice, just a face. I can't remember what my dad's voice sounded like. I have no recordings of what my dad sounded like. I do have pictures of what my dad looked like, and that's all I can. And I don't have a lot of that. It's not like today where we're taking 12 pictures of the same, thing on the ground. Oh, look at this piece of trash that's on the ground. People are litter bugs. I'm going to take 12 pictures of them and find out which one's the best shot of this piece of trash. It's like, take the picture, or don't even take the picture. But yeah, so that song, and the chorus was, "Did you think about me? Did you think about me when the wreckage was falling 17,000 feet from the ground?" Those are all very literal lyrics, like feeling and what actually happened. At 17,000 feet, my dad's plane started into a tailspin and went into the ground. I read all these reports from the FAA, all the communication between the control tower and my dad. I can read all of that. And my mom went to court. There's a lot of ugliness that was involved with that accident. But my mom had to go to court for 3 years working through this incident and who's to blame and who's responsible and all of those things that you might think that happened. So my mom had to endure listening to my dad go through this in a the little black box thing that they get. So a lot of the lyrics in that song are extremely literal. And Midline used to play that song live until I said, we're not going to play it live anymore, because unless you sat down in the quiet by yourself and listened to that song, you'd probably miss a lot of what was happening. So when we're playing the song live and people are swaying and like grinding on each other to it, I was like, to me, it was like a disrespectful thing to that memory. That whole song exists because I felt like I needed to get that out. It was very therapeutic. So that was a song that's very, very literal, but unless the listener like really knew the backstory to it a little bit, or just listened to it and were reading the lyrics, might not make that connection when they first heard it. That, wow, this is super heavy. This is somebody who went through a bad trauma, emotional trauma, and wow. So I remember Michael Deeds reviewed that album and that song, and when I ran into him around town, he's like, "Man, that song Wreckage is heavy, and it's very well written. The music, everything is so well done." But he goes, "What the thing I don't like about it is it doesn't resolve. There's no like, there's nothing in it that says this is okay." And I said, "Well, because it doesn't resolve, it's not okay." And when I told him that, he like even liked it even more. That like, what are you gonna do? My dad's not coming back. It's just how I felt, and I put that out there. So unless you're like in the quiet and have some kind of backstory to that song, I think it, you can hear the guitar, you can hear the drums and the vocal phrasing of how Anthony's singing. and maybe think that's cool, which it is. But if you're not really focused in on the lyrics or know what it's about, I think it kind of gets lost on people. And so, to Scott's point, like lyrics being very general, that can just resonate with a large audience easy, is I think that's really, really important. And so, like when Mark's saying, well, there's no rules, you're right, there isn't. However, if some of these formulas, if you follow, and believe me, this isn't, I'm not giving you my advice, I'm just relaying advice from people who are super incredibly successful in the music business. They have, you know, well, for example, like, if you have Bruce Springsteen's producer there, and he told you the same information I am, you might go, oh, he's absolutely right, because of what his resume is. But if Fred Fisher says it, you might, you can just do what you want. Well, yeah, you can. But if you want to be that next thing, if you want to grow in your songwriting and do all of those things, then, maybe you seek the advice. Like, raise your hand if you know who of David Foster. I don't know David Foster personally, but, big time producer, songwriter, worked with Whitney Houston and Celine Dion and Chicago and Earth, Wind and Fire, and hit after hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Why? What did David Foster do that created this ongoing hit machine? What was it? And why did the top artists in the world work with him? There's got to be a reason. And there you go. So, you're looking at people who have done these things, and so you look at that and you go, wow, that is amazing. If only I had a chance to work with David Foster. Yeah, if only you had a chance to work with David Foster. If I had a chance to work with David Foster, I would go work with David Foster. And if I sat down to the drums and started playing something, he goes, no, 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 don't do that. What I need from you is this. I have to say, okay, I can completely do this other thing, But if I go, David, what are you talking? I'm a good drummer. What do you mean, don't? I'm out. I'm out not because I chose to be, because I got fired from that gig. So, Greg says that was my favorite tune on that record, Fred. Fantastic song. Thank you so much, Greg. I really, really appreciate that. Gary's here. He said he wrote a song about bacon, his best work to date. Just kidding. There is no interest in Bruce Springsteen here. Well, Mark, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just using that as an example. I, I'm not telling you not to do something. I'm not. I have no. You do your thing, man. You do your thing and there you go. Scott says writing personal material for yourself doesn't need to adhere to rules. Writing for licensing is a different ballgame. Yes, 100%. Yeah. So, yeah, Mark, I don't need luck, and I don't mean that in a snarky way. I work diligently and following mentors who are helping me progress. So that doesn't just fall out of the sky. Yeah. So Scott, yes, 100%. So if specifically to taxi, if they're the taxi thing is unique because you're looking. Those music supervisors are looking for something incredibly specific to fit a scene in a movie or a television show. And so most of those writers who write for that is they're looking for something specific. So you can't be emotionally attached to that music. You're just filling that need. I didn't say that you were snarky, Mark. I'm saying my response to you is not meant to be snarky. I I am love. Have a good day, man. I'm confused by that statement, but I think I understand. Cool. All right. Well, that's my hour. I'll go back through and catch up on some of these others. But you guys, the reasons why your song sucks, if sometimes it's just one little change and then your song's amazing. At least you go to these music conferences and to have a better understanding of what people need so that you can provide those things, specifically for film and TV. Now, running parallel to that is people like myself, are people, whatever the proper verbiage is. Like, for me as a drummer, the need for me is really, really low in that environment, because most of these people are writing music and they're using programmed drums out of the box. That means whatever they have, a lot of different drum programs, real drums, sample drums, digital drums, whatever. So when these people are writing, producing music, they a lot of times just build a drum track and away they go. And it has to be fast. So a need for real drummers in that world is really, really low. It's not obsolete, thankfully. So there are some people who took my number and want to connect and see if we can have a relationship, working through that. But like I said, it's just to get more knowledge and more education, like from producing, from songwriting, and all of those kind of things. So go out and write music. And like I said in the very beginning of this, like, if you're coming in late, it's like, oh, Fred Fisher, that guy, he thinks he knows everything, and he thinks he's this great song. No, that's not the case. That is not the case. I said when I started this whole show today, is that by and large, I think all of us started playing music because we love playing music. And as long as you have that, then you're good, I believe. So if you never leave your house or your basement or your garage, cool. Are you having fun? Yeah, awesome. But once you step outside of that and you want to move up and up and up and up and up and up, you have to change what you do. You have to be willing to accept new ideas. You have to be willing to accept guidance from people who are more in it than you. And that's why I love having the relationship I do with some of my musician friends. That I have musician friends who have been there and done that, or who are continuing to do that. And those are the people that I seek their advice and opinions from. I don't typically go to something I used to do. I learned from those experiences. So yeah, if you came in late, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It's just relaying information that I learned. It's a very exciting, and as much experience as I had, it's making me think, like, okay, the next song that I'm involved with writing, like, how do I make that better? A, for myself, and then B, for the listener. Like, what kind of success is that gonna? I like playing music and sharing it with people. I like entertaining. I have big arm movements generally when I play, and I like to have a show. I like to be entertained. So there you go. You guys, I'm going to go do my thing because it's time to do my thing. And you guys have an awesome day, and there's some food for thought.